before we start, like Linda said, we just want to encourage you to say as much as you can, just your impressions, any ideas you have on this work. As I've studied it, I've learned a lot, and it was very complicated to me at first, but I know that you'll enjoy it, and hopefully we can get some good discussion out of this. Okay. So the only introduction we're going to give you is this big idea, and then we'll let you kind of give us your insights. In this exhibition, language is considered, metaphorically, a landscape that has the power to influence the way we view the world and our place within it. Language is intangible, but using landscape as an overlay, it becomes tangible, something we can see and feel and circumnavigate. So this is our first piece by Adam Bateman, Book Sculpture. We're just going to start with this first question. How is this sculpture a commentary on the power of words and language? Emily?
Well, I think just that it's so massive, and I guess I probably know more than maybe I'm supposed to about, it weighs, I don't remember the exact number, but it weighs a ton, and I think just how powerful words together, books coming together, and the accumulation of knowledge that you can get through words and language, and it really adds up to this really massive, powerful thing.
Along with that, it builds on itself. That one idea leads to the next idea, and it's certain works are supported by other ones, and it's kind of like your progression through studying, and even in the literary world that there's influences.
Great. Anyone else? Okay, our next question on the same slide. How do you feel about the sculpture made up entirely of books?
I think it's interesting because books, a book is a piece of literature, it's a piece of art. So I think it's interesting having an entire sculpture of just books. I feel like it's just kind of collaborating the idea of what a book is in terms of art, but having the masses of it, the whole thing, and seeing the patterns and everything of what these books can do. I don't know, I think it's an interesting way of seeing what the physical book is in terms of art, and how the little piece is compared to the whole sculpture.
Great. Anyone else? Okay, going off of the book being the object and the material, why do you think the artist turns all of the book spines inward? Is that significant? Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's not important which book it is. I think one doesn't want us focusing on that. It's just, and I don't know, there's also an interesting aesthetic quality about just having the pages show. Because they're just blocks of color.
To me, it leaves me wondering, what is inside. Does that make sense? What is written in these books, and what makes them unique to each other?
Emily, and then Peggy.
Yeah, I think having the spines turned inward makes all the texts more similar. It creates this kind of common bond between all books, that they're all contain knowledge and all contain things that can teach us and things that we can learn from, and it emphasizes those similarities rather than the differences that maybe the spines and the different colors and the different titles would have.
We're used to seeing it the other way. You go to a library and all you see are spines. So maybe you're making us just see books in a different way, displayed a different way.
Okay. Someone want to read this quote? Go ahead.
The primary structure of my sculptures is the text of the books. The secondary structure is the form made by the books.
Okay, so now that we've read that quote, what do you think Adam Bateman is trying to convey to us as viewers? Difficult one. Go ahead and take some time.
I guess what I'm getting from it is that it's or one of the things I'm getting from it is that it's a different lens with which to view a book. You know, because we're looking at just thousands and thousands of them, and we're not looking at them as like those are books. We're looking at this form that was made by books. So I guess for me, the message is, or what I'm getting from it is, I don't know, it's just entirely visual for me. You know, it's like I'm just looking at the sculpture itself, and then later realizing, you know, this was made of books or something like that. I don't know if that makes much sense at all, but.
So for you, the primary focus of this sculpture is the book material itself?
Less the book material itself and more the sculpture as a whole, and just all the different, I guess the different intricacies of it, like all the different lines and shapes that it's making. And then there's like a secondary thing that's like, and they were made by books, you know? So it's less the books and more just like the look of like the aesthetics of the whole thing is what I'm focusing on the most.
Okay. That's interesting because Adam Bateman says his primary thing is the text,
Yeah.
which you can't even see in this sculpture. Lauren?
I think it's interesting going back to the big idea with the idea that it's a landscape, and then him saying that it's about the text. You kind of have to think of like, how does the text have to do with the language? So you're standing in front of this massive structure that's about the text. So then you start realizing that the text and the language is this landscape, and the sculpture is a part of it. So kind of, you can talk about your own personal text and the language that you have, but also just in the space that you're in, especially as we're there in the space in front of the sculpture, the text becomes that landscape, the text of these books, even though you don't know what it is, but you know what this text, you can assume that there are words, that there's language in front of you. In the sculpture, the whole thing is text, even if you don't know exactly what it is, but that is the landscape in front of us, and I mean, it applies to everything like that.
Great. Yes.
To me, like, I mean, the text is the most important part, but we can't see it. So it makes me want to maybe value the text that I can see more in other situations. So maybe just think about it more when I actually am able to see the text.
Great. Okay, let's move on. Great. Okay, so we're comparing these two now. Why do you think the artist organized this book sculpture into a spherical shape? Do you think it is as visually effective as his previous work? Why or why not? A few things in there. Yes?
I think it's like maybe more aesthetically interesting, but I think that for his concept of like the importance of books, like you think less about the books and more about like how this came, how did he do that, how did he get them in that shape, and it's more about the sculpture, more about the form than the actual books of his. Is the other one called just book sculpture?
Yeah. Well, this one's ball, and the other one, I don't know if I go back.
Yeah.
Sure. Yes.
Incidentally, we don't yet know. What Adam Bateman usually does is chooses one of the books from the sculpture itself and uses that name as the name of the entire sculpture, sort of a synecdoche of what, but he hasn't chosen it yet. So that remains a mystery at this point.
Does he choose it at random, or?
We'll see.
Interesting.
We'll see how he actually goes through that process.
Okay, does anyone else have a commentary about the shape of this?
Well, I think it's interesting in comparison to the book sculpture, because I mean, in the book sculpture, you don't have the spines, you don't really even have like the shape of the book. It's that you see these patterns that it creates in the colors. And in this one, I feel like it's such a bigger, I don't know, I feel like because it's in the ball shape, it's circular, it almost looks like a globe to me with the colors and like the shapes that it has. And the other one just seems much more like a landscape. This one seems more like the globe, or just kind of like the bigger picture, because you see the individual books, as opposed to the other one, it's about the pattern. This one, I feel like, is more about the books put into a shape. I don't know. That probably doesn't make sense.
Oh, that's great. Okay, we'll move on. Does knowing that the artist uses primarily discarded books to create his book sculptures change your perception of the work? If so, how?
It's almost like he gives them importance even to the knowledge that people consider useless. Because if you look, you see these really thick books, especially in the larger sculpture, and you know there's a lot in them because they look to college students. It looks like textbooks, even if you can't quite tell, and you know that there's a lot within textbooks, even if they've been discarded, and it's just kind of again gives back the importance and kind of the power of all knowledge, just not what we deem to be important at the time.
Great.
Well, it's kind of nice because it's passed through so many people's hands already. I mean, rather than a new book, which is, kind of been untouched, these have all affected a bunch of people.
That's interesting. Yeah. Anything else? That's good. Do you find it significant that the artist completely rebuilds his book sculptures each time he exhibits them?
I think that's relevant in, or at least parallels the way that we approach a text. Because you can read something over and over, but each time you read it, you'd be at a different time of life or something, and so you would interpret it, maybe not entirely differently, but that would, you never read the same thing in the exact same way twice. So, I mean, the fact that he makes a new one every time just kind of mimics that.
Interesting. Yeah. Did you have something?
It's not as profound, but I worked on making the sculpture for like 2 hours, and it's hard work. Like, I didn't even do the hard part, just like lifting the books up and handing them to the people putting them in. And like, I was tired after the 2 hours, and so it's like, I think it's significant that, because it takes so much time and it's such hard work, like, it's a big investment. So I think that's significant. That obviously means, I don't know, it just like adds that quality of like hard work and like, I don't know, it just means a lot to him, I guess, that he
That
reveals
it's-
it every.
Great. Okay, now we're moving to a different artist. So this is Harold Fletcher's images of pages of Veda's Bible. And can I have someone, Jessica, would you like to read what's in this text box?
During Fletcher's residency at Art Place in San Antonio, he met and befriended Veda Epling, a homeless woman then living in a church's doorway. The artist noticed that Epling had a curious habit. She obsessively highlighted Bibles, imposing a code of her own device upon page after page of scripture. Fletcher provided Veda with materials, a few Bibles and highlighters, and commissioned her to create new works, 15 pages of which were chosen and photographed for this suite.
Okay. Which do you think are the primary works of art? The highlighted Bibles or the photographs of the Bibles?
I think it's the highlighted Bibles, but like the photographs are, the documentation of that, so they're not about like purpose or use or anything like that. But the focus, or the purpose of the photograph is to document the Bible.
Okay, so who's the artist then? Is it Harold Fletcher or Veda?
It's kind of,
I would say the photograph.
Okay.
Because he just stumbled upon this woman who just, out of her own free will, was just creating these Bibles. And he happened upon it and then decided to turn it into art.
Okay, so it was his choice.
Yeah, I think just the fact that he photographed them, like that's the only way that they made it into a museum, because he chose to photograph them and make them art. I mean, but at the same time, without the Bibles, he wouldn't have had, like he didn't choose which colors, he just chose which colors he liked, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think that goes with which are the primary works of art. I think we both acknowledge that both are contributors to the final product, but what is primary is different.
I think it's interesting that we're talking about how he chose to photograph these, and I think, wouldn't it be interesting if he chose to really get these, just put the Bibles in a museum? Like, I don't know that much about Harold Fletcher, but it seems like he's well connected enough and has enough prominence in our world to get these photographs in museums, that what if he had decided to just get the Bibles in? I think it's an interesting choice that he made.
Yeah, exactly.
This might sound really weird, but there's something about the entire experience that makes